Very good afternoon to all present here. I, CS Surbhi Jain from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, extend a very warm welcome to our respected speaker, CSB Murli, valued participants who have gathered with us today for this enlightening session on effective board management and role of communication, being conducted under EEE 5.0 Master Knowledge Series as its 18th webinar. Before we delve into the topic, we are delighted to announce that the applications are open for the prestigious ICSI National Awards for Excellence in Corporate Governance for the 2025. This year, we are celebrating the 25th edition of these awards for honoring the excellence by recognizing the organizations that set benchmark in corporate governance. Applications are also invited for ICSI Lifetime Achievement Award, ICSI CSR Excellence Award, and ICSI Business Responsibility and Sustainability Awards. For further details about the award process and the categorization, please visit the ICSI website. And the last date to submit the application is 14th August 2025. Also, we are overwhelmed to announce the 4th ICSI Board Mentorship Program to be held from 18 to 21st September in Kalimpong, West Bengal. And for further details, please visit the ICSI website. Now coming back to the topic of the day, effective board management and the role of communication. The boardroom is more than a meeting space. It is the heartbeat of an organization where visions are crafted, strategies are shaped, and decisions are made that can steer the course of an entire enterprise. But even the most capable board cannot function at their best without invisible thread that hold everything together, which is clear, timely, and effective communication. This is where company secretary become the catalyst for the success. Beyond being a compliance officer, the company secretary is the board navigator, bridge builder, and trusted advisor, ensuring that every voice is heard, every perspective is considered, and every decision is informed. Communication is just not about the word. It's about building trust, fostering collaboration, and aligning diverse minds toward one shared goal, sustainable growth and good governance. Today's discussion will inspire us to see how, with the right approach to the board management, the power of strategic communication, company secretaries can transform meetings into moments of impact, challenges into opportunities, and boards into true engines of progress. And for the detailed deliberations, we have with us CSB Murli, who bring with him deep regulatory insight and practical experience. And it's my proud privilege to read his brief profile before all our members. CSB Murli is the former Director, Legal and Company Secretary of Nestle India Limited and headed legal corporate governance and compliances of Nestle in South Asia region. He is retired after spending more than 3 decades of his life within Nestle. He currently serves as the non-executive director on the board of Dr. Reddy's and Nestle Health Science Limited. He is the visiting professor of practice at National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, Hyderabad. He is the fellow member of ICSI, law graduate from the Campus Law Center, Delhi University, certified financial analyst of ICFAI, and associate member of ICWAI. He has more than 36 years of professional experience and as the company secretary of Nestle India Limited. He has led corporate governance, managed an eminent board of directors and shareholder. And under his leadership, he steered the Nestle India's legal strategies for the relaunch of Maggi noodles in the year 2015. So we are privileged to have you on this session and to understand the topic in the detail. And together, let's explore how we can lead with the clarity, connect with the purpose, and contribute to a governance framework. Once again, I welcome you and thank you for taking the time for us for this webinar. Members, please post your queries and we will take up those queries at the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Surbhi, for that introduction. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be associated with the webinars of ICSI. And this obviously is a very important topic, as you just elucidated. So if we can have the presentation, I think I will get right away.
Sure, sir. Just a second.
If you
Yes.
can just put it on slide. Thank you. Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone participating in this webinar today. Board management, I think I don't need to at all say anything about it. It's a very, very important role for every company secretary. And I'm sure that all the company secretaries on the call have dealt with this topic very regularly. I mean, it's something which is regular in our work, and you all have a very good idea of the role of communication. Uh, Obviously, today I will be trying and sharing my perspective on this topic through my experience, as just Surbi said, of over 3 decades. What are my learnings, and how can communication play an effective role? And I would be obviously looking at it from the lens of a company secretary and how we can leverage the communication for an effective board management. Obviously, I'm not going to cover communication amongst board members and between the board members and management. That is not part of today's overall coverage. If we can just go to the next slide, please. So, if you really look at this topic, I just thought it would be better reflected if we were to call it the role of communication for effective board management, because it is a very important facet. If you want effective board management, communication is going to have a very important role. And we can, I mean, all of us have seen the recent information that the SEBI chairman had at the Institute of Directors, where he said that if we were to reimagine the board of the future, it is not a ceremonial forum, but a learning organization. Learning organization can happen only, again, information has to be a very important part of that learning. It does not just protect the company value, it creates long-term stakeholder trust. And trust, getting the stakeholder trust, is a long journey. And again, if we look at it from the perspective of a communication, again, communication which is true, which is correct, which is timely, that will take the quality of the communication is very important contributor to this. And the board does not avoid uncomfortable questions and insists on them to open up blind spots. Now, obviously, the board can ask uncomfortable questions only if they have the right information to ask those questions. So, to sum up this slide, the role of communication is going to probably play an even stronger role in the boards of the future. If you can go to the next slide, please. And if I can use, I mean, I've just tried to put these blocks of maybe the types of communications that we have with the board or the directors. At one end of the spectrum, if I start from the left side of the slide, is information. Now, all of us know, but just to reiterate, information is not just data. It's much more than that. It is data that has been processed, organized, and structured to be meaningful and useful. And therefore, the company secretary has a very important role in that transition in converting that data into information. And when we talk about information, probably amongst the 4 blocks that I have put here, the role of the company secretary from a communication standpoint of view, I think, weighs heavily on the first block of information. And if we look at information, probably the highest consumers or the people who need it most are the independent directors first, if I look at the order, because purely because of the fact that they are not there regularly. They are coming there for your board meetings and they may be there for some other events, but they are not your full-time. They are non-executive people. The next one are non-executive directors, because these, if they are not independent, they are likely to have some level of information, either they are from the parent company or from the promoter. So it's likely that they will have a better level of information. So I have listed them second in terms of the requirement of information. Probably the whole time directors are the one who require the least amount of information, because they are being in the they're being in the entity itself. They would have access to information of various kinds. Yes, if it is finance director, they may not know necessarily about a technical subject, about ISIT, information technology, it could be, or it is that if you have someone who is in the manufacturing, they may not know about finance. So these sort of things may be there. So there is an information requirement there also, but it is at a lower level. At the other extreme, I have put on the right hand side is advocacy. This, according to me, is a very, very important type of communication, because this involves the skill of the company secretary in communication. Because here you have to convince people to do particular thing or to undertake thing. Now, if we talk about why have I put here whole-time directors as the first? Any issue on governance that we have, obviously, when I talk about governance, it's not just compliance. It's compliance, doing it not only in the spirit of the law, not only in the way the law is, but also in the spirit of the law. And going and doing things in the spirit of the law is a much larger issue, where normally you will have to engage with your whole-time directors and other internal stakeholders to get to that bar that you have something which is of the highest level of governance. If we look at it in the context of communication, for example, we want a particular business to make presentation to the board on a particular, on that business strategy or whatever. The first question that you are likely to get is, why should I do it? I am responsible for this. What does the board got to do with this? You will say they have an oversight role. The fact is, the moment you go to the board with a presentation, you will get questions. So the role of the company secretary becomes very important in explaining the whole board management, how it is overall in the interests of the company, and how it is important for the board to function effectively, to also have inputs on that particular area. So this is a facet of advocacy which is a different dimension that the company secretary has to deal with, because it's about trying and convincing people with your persuasion, with your arguments, just not about giving facts and figures and information. I mean, the order there obviously is after that you have the non-executive directors, and then I have put independent directors the least, because the role on advocacy, when I am seeing it, I'm looking at it more from the governance perspective. The independent directors, there may be a few occasions, but there will be lesser where you may have to engage in advocacy. In between are two other pillars. One is about the opinions or advisory, the role that the company secretary plays, which I would say can vary from situation to situation, need not necessarily be in any particular order. Probably it will be a little tilted in towards the whole-time directors or the company management, because normally the advisory role is first rendered to the management, and then you have the support role. When I say support role, to help all the directors with their disclosures, with their compliances, so that in this the company secretary always has a role in ensuring that this is done in time, that there is a proper understanding on how it is to be done, and what is being done is in order. Again, this could be more or less uniform across all the three categories. So this is what I wanted to share as far as the types of communication are concerned. One end, as I said, is the information, and the other end is advocacy, which I think is a different level of skill, a high level of skill it requires. We can go to the next slide, please. Now, asking a very basic question, why do we really need effective communication? I'm sure all of us understand this, the need for it. And I think I just tried to put some thoughts around it. And if we see, I think the board responsibilities, they are extending, and the role is really moving much beyond overseeing management activity to actively engaging actually with the company's operation strategic direction. That is the expectation that we have. And if we see, if I may say so, overall, from a corporate governance perspective, the issues and the thinking is heading towards a direction where the line between the non-executive directors and the independent directors on one side and the management is thin. I mean, it's becoming a thinner and thinner line, because the expectation from the independent directors is on the increase, and this is reflected in the regulatory requirements as we see, as they are evolving, as they see more and more issues that need to go to the board or have to be looked by the board committees. We are having the emerging technologies, which today, including the artificial intelligence, which is now not a buzzword, fancy buzzword, but a real threat and a real opportunity that we have to which can be harnessed. And in this, obviously, the board has, because this is a strategic part, this board will have a responsibility on this. Then you have the geopolitical and other risks. We are seeing currently the challenges we are having around the tariff, and companies that are hit by this, how are they going to respond to it? Or earlier you had, briefly, fortunately for us, Operation Sindoor. So these sort of things which develop suddenly without notice. Some of them you can at least look that this is a possibility, but there are situations we are seeing where these things just happen without any notice or with very short notice, requiring a very quick reaction. And then you have other risks which are there, which we see associated with the use of technology. You have the cyber risks that are coming in. You have other sort of risk, which, you have to keep looking at the horizon for things which can disrupt the operations or which can cause challenges, and address them in time again. The second part I have put, one is the expanding board responsibility. The second, that when we look at the independent directors and the non-executive directors, there is and there should be skill diversity. That's the way you will be able to leverage the board. Now, when you have skill diversity, so someone will be a IT specialist, someone could be a businessman, someone could be a manufacturing expert. So you could have from the sector, they could be sector specialists. So you will have, there could be governance experts, lawyer, so on. So you have a diversity in the board. When you have diversity, it becomes important that irrespective of what their specialization or what their skill specialization is, you are able to leverage again their expertise. For that, again, communication becomes very important, especially if I am not from the field from which that particular agenda item or that particular business relates to. Second, this everyone knows that the independent directors, non-executive directors have heavy time constraints. and how best to leverage this short time. A good communication can help you get good results even in the short time that they may be able to give you. This information that we have seen, what is the basically the landscape that we are, and obviously the communication, I think, put it very simply, has to be clear and timely. Both are like the two key vectors. Clarity makes it easy to understand, and timely helps them to react or to take decisions faster. Now, what does this lead to overall? We have this effective communication. It would lead to an improvement in the quality of inputs from the directors. Now, if we really see, I have from my personal experience, I can say that the more information or the more inputs you give to the directors, better the quality of output that you get. Then you have their perspectives, their inputs. Obviously, this is something where we have to prepare the management, because the more you share with the board, the more that likely there are going to be questions, there are going to be comments, which I alluded to earlier. And this is something that this has to be prepared so that you can leverage the expertise of the board. Good communication translates into informed and speedy decisions. We were talking about just the geopolitical situation. These are situations where you may need very speedy decisions, and there could be many more such areas. It could be even launching a product because of some competitive intensity coming in, addressing that, or it could be a regulatory issue where you may need speedy decisions, and that they need to be also informed, because if not, you're not likely to get the best possible outcome. It does clearly help in effective oversight functions, because as I said, the more information you give, the better clarity. There is a collaborative spirit that will come in. Definitely it will help in collaborating with the directors, because there is based on the information flow, you are able to an exchange of ideas, exchange of information. It becomes a collaborative exercise instead of it being either management led or board led or whosoever led. It is like it is a collaboration between everyone, and it provides transparency to the overall functioning of the board, because there is very clear, there is an element of mutual trust that is built in when we know that whatever is being relevant is being shared with the board, it's being communicated, and that leads to transparency. And all this obviously is not something that happens in the air. It contributes to the business, it contributes to the growth of the business or the way the business progresses. So all in all, there is, the need for effective communication. I don't think any of us have any doubt, but I can only say it's a very, very important area in effective board management. We can go to the next slide, please. So when we look at the various communication that we have, what do we do with it? What are the various types of communication? When we talk about effective board management, I thought, let me try and put it into some sort of buckets and relate the communication to that. So the first bucket I thought I'll put is, how do we leverage the expertise and diversity in the board for the business of the company, of the entity. Now, to do this, you have communication in relation to the business orientation on regular basis. It has to be a structured approach on how we provide orientation to the directors on the business. This is something, as I said, if you want the contributions, they need to understand the business and what it entails. Now, communication here can take various forms, but I think it is very important that there are regular interactions of the businesses with the board, either through presentations at the board meeting or many times, like good practices, we have seen that the board is also exposed on to the annual plans, which anyway they are supposed to be informed. And there you have maybe a whole day or two exposing them to the various businesses of the company. What are the strengths? What has been the performance? What are the challenges? What are the issues? What is the way forward? And that gives them perspective to be able to discharge their role in the company. The second area, which I think is more and more, relevant today, is the risk management, and also with that, the management of opportunities. Earlier, I had shared artificial intelligence, for example. It is both a risk and an opportunity. If harnessed, it can become an opportunity. If not addressed adequately, it can become a risk. And this is something, again, only if there are two things. One, as I said, the board is aware of the business operations properly, then they would be able to know the business related risks. Otherwise, normally, if you see the regulatory risks, the compliance risks, these are normally well captured. It's only a question of communicating to the board what are these and what are the mitigation plans. So this is something which needs to find that communication. Yes, we have now in listed companies the requirement of a risk management committee. There is a much more formal structure and process around this. With that, I move to the next important area, which is on sustainability. This is, I would say, today's the modern license to operate for companies. So, we have to all work towards making the operations of the company sustainable, more and more sustainable. And obviously, it is not, it's not a buzzword, because it's something which involves both time and efforts. And efforts, when I say, there are financial outlays, there are people with whom you need to collaborate. A thing like, for example, it may sound very simple that you say, I will plant trees. It's not just question about planting the trees. You have to see that the tree is taken care and till it actually is eligible to be something which is considered contributing to the sustainability. So you have to take, where do you plant that tree? On whose land? How do you maintain it? I'm just giving a very basic example. Now, these are all operational decisions, what I am telling you. But the issue is that sustainability in itself is a huge strategic call at many times that the company needs to take. And obviously today the boards would have, I'm sure, people who are experts or have skills in this area. So to leverage that, again, communication on this and the plans of the company and taking that inputs is something which can be done through good communication. Another very important facet which I found works well is to get the board to visit the facilities. For manufacturing companies, it could be factories. For companies which are more in the service sector, it could be the offices, as well as visit, it could be CSR initiative, your major CSR initiatives, or it is any major sustainability projects that you have undertaken. the interaction. So this is another format of communication which should be leveraged, because it gives, and as they say, seeing is believing. Going and visiting the site provides a different perspective to the directors, and their appreciation of the business of what is being done, as well as a clear, what you call, say, they get to also meet people there. So the overall advantage that these things throw up is immense. So this is something I would strongly recommend that one should try to do in communication to improve the communication. The second block I thought that is relevant, could be relevant, is the high standards of corporate governance. Obviously, this is something, this is a sort of given, this is a non-negotiable. And just if I just put some of the key areas, which I'm sure all of you are well aware of, when we talk about related party transaction, I think this is something we see more and more of it. And in this, how do you communicate with the board or the audit committee, whoever is dealing with it, in terms of providing them the key inputs to show that it is in the ordinary course of business, and if it is not in the ordinary course of a business, how is it relevant, why should the company undertake it, proper justification. And I think the most challenging part of it is the arm's length basis. The arm's length pricing is something which is a challenge, and this needs to be clearly explained to the board. What is the justification for the pricing that has been adopted, and the what could be the appropriate benchmarks, and where possible you have an independent validation. Now all these things need to be provided upfront to the direct board or the committee that is handling it, to ensure that they have the necessary information to take, as I said, a proper and timely decision. The second area that I think all of you would be dealing, is around the directors, whole area of directors, whether it is the appointment, and here, especially when we look at independent directors, it is at least in some of the areas, you don't necessarily find the best of the directors in terms of their independence. Again, the SEBI chairman in that recent in the address last week at the Institute of Directors, he again said that the people need to go beyond their familiar network. So you have to go outside. So the identification, how do you look when you are saying what is the skill that is relevant for that particular position? Obviously, you have a skill metrics for your directors. Out of that, which is the skill that you need now for this appointment? And amongst other things, what is the diversity that the director brings? It could be in terms of the skills, it could be in terms of the gender, it could be in terms of the geography, whatever is relevant to the company. That sort of diversity you need to look at, and whether they can devote sufficient time. Taking someone who already has large number of directorships means the time they will be able to give you will be that much. So, but here again, all these, when I say these things have to be communicated to the nomination remuneration committee, subsequently to the board. That's the perspective I'm coming from. Similarly, when you're talking about the remuneration of directors, what is the benchmark that has, how have you arrived? I mean, this is more, I would say, I'm looking at the whole-time directors or the key managerial personnel. When we talk about their remuneration, how are the remuneration being fixed? What is the benchmark? All these inputs given to the nomination remuneration committee or the board, and or the board, I would say, is very necessary. Similarly, increments. Now, this is not something which, now these are all, if you really see, when I talk about remuneration, when I talk about increments, these are typically areas where your advocacy skills become higher, which I was talking earlier, because here the HR will feel that, hey, look, this is our job, why are you getting into this? Yes, that is a legal requirement, but we will try and explain. But the thing is, it's not a question of just explaining. It's about providing all the relevant information to see that the directors are comfortable with whatever is there. Like if we are looking at increments, what is the basis that the increment has been arrived at? Obviously, most of the organizations will have a very structured approach to this, but whatever that has to also be shared so that there is a perspective that is provided and a good advice can be obtained. We have also seen many instances where the severance packages have come in for questioning. So therefore, this is another area where the directors need to be provided full information so that there can be a proper decision. The other area areas I've clubbed, I would say this is more in the context of, I will say, companies either diversifying into area, making investment into areas, which especially if it is not in the context of their regular line of business or taking on something which is too big for its size. These are things where the board should be approached with proper studies, with proper justification, with proper validation where possible, so that they can again give their perspective and take an informed decision. Fund utilization, less said, the better. We keep hearing about financial irregularities, despite all this that I am talking about. So, as company secretaries, I think all we can do is to see if you see the red flag somewhere, or see that all information is presented to the directors that especially focused around. I mean, these things could also be that the audit chair can be taken. I mean, asked, what is there any specific thing you would like, especially on these areas which are sensitive, which have been sensitive in some companies, so that you later avoid the situation of a fund diversion or a financial irregularity coming in. And I'm not, all of you would be reading in the press about the recent instances we have had of funds being diverted, misapplied, and all that. All this is something which, to the extent as company secretary one can do, see that the information is up there, the relevant stakeholders are involved in this issue, so that the board gets a complete perspective. The other area is about the vigil mechanism, which is, according to me, a very important check and balance that the governance is working properly. Because if there are any shortcomings, this should, in the normal course, find its way through complaints, either from internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. Yes, there are many instances one will see where you get wild complaints, because for other reasons there are people also who misuse this, and unfortunately you can see a majority of what one will receive is likely to be around that. But having a robust vigil mechanism ensures that you have a quality governance. And for that, again, how do you deal with it in taking these sort of issues, relevant issues, to the board or to the audit committee, and seeing that what is the sort of, feedback you're getting from the directors on these sort of issues. We can go to the next slide, please. The director's role that they have in discharge of the duties that they are exercising due diligence, because they are then responsible for this. So so how do we, through communication, help them uh, uh, do this? Like when we talk about financial statements, it could be unaudited financial results, it could be the audited results, transparency in the accounting treatment, fund utilization, which I just spoke about, investments, loans, the sensitive areas where I will say, as company secretaries, we need to keep our ears and eyes open, that wherever these sort of issues they are popping up, that these issues, at least from our lens, we see that if there is anything, at least there is a complete disclosure. Maybe there is no issue at all, but give the audit committee and the board the necessary information for them to have a complete view of the matter and then take their call on it. Uh, this, if you see the second bullet, this is around the director's responsibility statement, which is there under 100 and section 135 5F, which says that it's a responsibility, and that in the report of the board of directors, they are required to affirm that the directors had devised a proper system to ensure compliance. See that the direct they have devised the proper system. Look at the sort of this thing, to ensure compliance with all applicable, and that such systems are adequate and operationally effective and operating effectively. So you see, there are so many of responsibilities, duties on the directors, even in a compliance related matter, for compliance of all laws. So what is the this will mean that whatever compliance management system that you're operating, the board has complete visibility and buy-in, because they are supposed to devise the proper system. So it's a sort of thing where they are running the show as far as the compliance management system is concerned. So it needs to have that buy-in. And then what are the measures that are being taken that that system is adequate and they are operating effectively? So this is something you'll need to have a system. It could be, one is the reporting you do, but to the board, but that report that is coming, that things are compliant or whatever, how do we know that it is all right, that it is, that the non-compliances, if any, are being addressed? So what are the systems that you have in place to ensure that the system is operating, legal system, the compliance management system is operating effectively? So these are the things, again, you need to find your ways of communicating this to the board through appropriate means. What are the measures? Succession planning is another very sort of important area, where the board has a role. When I say board, please also always include the relevant committees, where this thing, in this case, the nomination remuneration committee as well. Succession planning, what is the sort of communication you can do? One is just putting up names and saying XYZ, but a good communication will mean that the directors have visibility to the probable successors. So what are the occasions you can make available that the directors can interact with the successors, people in success, who are in the succession plan? Now, for example, a presentation to the board or to the committee could be by a successor. It need not always be the person holding the post. You could think of occasions, let's say if you're having a whole day meeting in the office, obviously the directors are going to break for lunch. In the lunch, could you invite a few of the successors or the young talent? So these are opportunities for you to communicate with the directors on the successors. And the other important thing, which I've spoken about it already twice, is the development and implementation of a risk management policy. this is again a part of the director's responsibility. Now, so this again requires that they have complete understanding of the company's operations, business. That's when you will be able to get the board to be able to give you a risk management policy or endorse a risk management policy which meets the needs and helps them discharge their responsibilities. The last section I had is, I think, something which you all will relate to is maintaining the reputation and credibility of the directors. Whatever is in the control as company secretary to help the directors maintain their credibility, because if their credibility is affected, the credibility of your board is impacted. Now, what could be the areas that are, when we talk about this, dealing transparently with your controversies? We see, I mean, again, this is not new, but family feuds are typical, where you have one section of the family accusing the other of irregularities or wrongdoings. How do you deal with them is very important as a company. There are various ways we see, but just to put this as a topic, there is no one solution or option that can fit. It depends on the case to case. Similarly, if you have any investigations going on, these things find immediate mention in the press also. So what if there is an opportunity that you can communicate on this, it helps, because it at least provides a perspective instead of guess game for the shareholders, investors, and other stakeholders. Or if there is any adverse actions. Now, most of this, if at least your listed company, may have to be reported per se. But if not, also, if there are things which are important, you have to find a way of communicating them to the relevant stakeholders in a transparent manner, with the objective of giving the right information and hoping that that will address the issue of their reputation and credibility. There may be, I mean, if let's say there is a adverse SEBI order on the director, I mean, yes, you cannot say anything, because at that stage, your only thing is to be able to say, which is likely the case in all cases, that they are going in appeal. In rare cases, it may be compounded, but whatever the situation, it needs to be dealt with and communicated. This insider trading compliance, I think, is probably amongst the one tricky area, I would say, because if you see the history of these unintended violation by directors, either they have done portfolio investment and that portfolio manager has invested in the company stocks, which they were not aware of, but that should not have been done, or they have traded during the close period. So therefore, your communication has to, in my view, follow a methodology which the director is fully aware of it. You can't just leave, I told you, because yes, it is the director's responsibility if they get hauled up, but you also, as the company, get dragged into it. So I would say this is an area where you, depending on the knowledge level of your directors and how seriously they take this area, one has to modulate their approach on insider trading compliance, that you get it right and that there are no violations. And the last one is more, I think, timely disclosures. So these are under various laws that you have, or compliances. Getting, I mean, maybe again, it's an issue for the directors to do. But I think most company secretaries do this for the reason that if there is a non-compliance, it's going to ultimately create an issue for the director and indirectly then for the board. So again, maintaining a communication on these areas, being proactively taking it up with the directors. Hey, look, this disclosure is due, this compliance is due, and helping them out with that ensures that that the directors remain on the right side. We can go to the next one, please. Now, coming to, I would say, the area where the company secretaries make the full impact, and that is how to leverage the communication. To start with, I think maybe the maximum or the most area where communication takes place, that is the board and committee meetings. And the starting point is the agenda, which again, I would say is amongst the most powerful communication tools that are available for the company secretary. And therefore, it is necessary that whatever is there, the quality of, it's a very high quality pre-read material that is circulated to the directors. Now, when we talk high quality pre-read material, what are the sort of issues that that will help make it a high quality pre-read? One, comprehensive and not exhaustive. Because see, many times one is tempted, oh, I should tell this, we should also disclose this, we should also tell this. But that if it makes it too long, it's going to be difficult for everyone to comprehend in entirety. Let's take our own thing. If you have a long thing to read, as compared to something which is comprehensive, see where your attention will go to. You would prefer the one where you are having a comprehensive one. The second one, avoid operational details, because operations is a role of the management. Here, normally, what one would see, the management likes to showcase the operations because and speak more about the operation. So, but too much of details does not serve much purpose, because that is not in the remit of the board. Avoid business jargons, technical jargons. Many times we don't realize and we use terms which may not be understood, abbreviations that may not be understood by the directors. Today, Surbhi, while reading my biodata, she gave the full form of NALSA. I had written NALSA. Now, she did the right thing. I don't know how many of you, all of you may not know what an NALSA is. So I'm just drawing as a very sort of basic example that therefore we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the reader as to how much they will understand. Minimize the legalese. I mean, this I think is amongst the most challenging tasks for us company secretaries. Used to sections, regulations. Yes, they are very, very important, but those are for us in the background. For the directors, I think what is relevant is what is the thing to be done. What do the regulations say? We don't need to say this particular section, this rule, and then quote it, or the full rules. Many of the rules also go so long, even the, like I was just talking about insider trading regulation. If you write the entire regulation, it will occupy one full line. Say Securities Exchange Board of India, prohibition of like that. So you try to avoid the legalese. I have tried to give practical effect to it. You will see in this whole presentation, there is only one place where I have mentioned a section. Otherwise, you will not see anywhere I have mentioned any legal provisions. It's not that they are not important. They're very important. But where and when to use and how much to use is something, a call you need to take. Yes, you could have elements, if you have elements in your board who are particular about the legal provisions, I think There's a different way to look at it. You can chat with them, but for that, not burden all the board members with a very legal sort of approach to the whole thing. Every agenda item which is of importance, and I would say runs beyond, let's say, 10 lines, I would say, or 10, 15 lines, should have an executive summary. I mean, but this is obviously for important items, not for routine sort of cases. And when you have an executive summary, you very briefly explain what the issue is. And this should be marked clearly whether it is for information purpose or does it require a decision. Normally, this is already done by all of you. I'm sure you, even in the agenda while you write, you'd say whether it is approval or record. So there is a way you already indicate whether this is for information or for a decision. But it is important that it is very clear to the director that whether this agenda is for their record or decision, because the approach on both of them are different. And also, for these important items, you should already take an input from the management. Look, what are the sort of questions that you would want the board to discuss? Like, what are the issues you would like to bring up to the board to discuss? What are the, as they say, frame the issues so that the deliberations can happen around them and you get an answer out of that. So if there are something like that, that can also be part of this pre-read, that these are the questions or issues that the management has for you. So they can discuss at the board meeting these things. Agenda, obviously, try to make it as consistent. The look should be consistent and the look and feel should be, to the extent possible, try to do it. So let's say you could have a pattern where you have let's say an introduction, what is the issues to be addressed, what are the sort of you could have a section on the legal provision. So for example, there you can say also, but if I'm not interested, I don't need to go through that section, but there is a format. I know XYZ, this is what I have, and therefore that format you can put it in a way that the more important things come up front. And so if that is there, it also helps that the directors know where to focus. Depending on my area of interest as a director, I can focus on that area. And obviously they can identify if there are exceptions, because if you're going to follow a particular format and the format is different for a particular, if an exception, obviously there will be a reason why you will deviate from that format. And always they'll have much clarity on what the key takeaways are. For important items, one could look at appendices. I mean, you can have the, as we call, attachments that you can have, annexures, whatever you call, but these should be limited. Don't for everything attach 2 or 3 and then it makes meaningless. It should be very minimal and to support the detail for key topics that are there or key points. And see, you have typically these important or complicated agenda items. So let's say it's for a deal, you want to buy a business. I'm just putting it. Now, it is written in a particular way. A good way in such a thing is always that you have done your part. Maybe you got first a write-up from the business or whatever, then you applied yourself. It always is good to go to a third person whom you trust to say, can you just review this? Does this read okay? So that person is in a way substituting a board member to say, look, I don't know this area. I'm reading it for the first time. Is it making sense to me? Is there some area which are not clear or things like that? So it helps you make it, as I said, that high quality pre-read. We can go to the next. The next, obviously, major intervention is through presentations that are made in the board or the committee. And it's always good to start with whatever the purpose of the presentation and what is the outcome desired. This clearly helps define what the board members are expected to do if they know this is the purpose and what is the outcome, so they can focus accordingly and ask comments or provide inputs on that basis, and always highlight the essential information. Now, this is something which over a period of time, because the challenge comes is that at one end you may think that everything is essential, everything is important. It's what is important is to distill that and make them less in number. And if it is your area, obviously you as company secretary have to take that call. But if it is a business or a finance or a whatever another function presentation, you have to ask them, hey, look, you have written 20 points. Let's say if you were to say which are the 5 most important things, what are they? Some sort of such approach will help provide a good quality presentation to the board. And where it is, where the presentation is an amendment or a modification of something already approved by the board, it could be, let's say, RPT policy or some other policy. It's enough if one just highlights what are the modifications, what are the amendments. No need of going through the entire document. And out of that also, what are the key elements? Like, let's say if you are just, something subsequent, consequential is being amended, I don't think that is relevant. What is relevant are the key amendments or modification. If you highlight them, it helps maintain that focus. And what is very important, I would say, in all this is sufficient time for question and answers. And because that is the opportunity you have, that the board really understands what the issues are and they register the essential points, because that is the strongest way. If you are going to have a discussion, it is something which is definitely going to remain in their heads instead of just passing through as an agenda item. So it is very important you provide sufficient time. So whenever time is allocated for a particular agenda item, always have sufficient time for the question and answers or discussions. Now, if you ask me what is the sufficient time, I would say it is variable on two axes. One, what are the types of what is the approach of the board members? Are they someone who will ask a lot of questions or a few pointed questions? Because that would depend, that will mean more questions means more time. Second, what is the type of topic? Is it something which is straightforward, or is it something which involves subjective elements? So if you have that sort of things, it could require more time. We just spoke about vigil mechanism. Now let's say it could be subjective. When you see what is the action to be taken in this case, there is this issue that has happened, what should we be doing? So those sort of things may require more time. So therefore, you will have to exercise your judgment to provide the right amount of time. And always summarize the presentations, should summarize the outcome. The presenter, it's important, summarizes the outcome, and that should be in a way finding its way into the minutes, that this is the essence of the presentation. What is the outcome of the discussions of this helps later, as I said, in the minutes, and for a clear understanding on what was discussed and what has been approved or recorded as the agenda is. Then coming to the prioritization of agenda, when I say prioritization, it's both. You have only that much time that you have for a board meeting or a committee meeting. within that, how much time you are going to provide for this particular agenda, and where are you going to place it? Like, are you going to place it above? Are you going to place it towards the end, in the middle? These are very important, and in this, you can, if you can see, if you look at broadly the agenda items, you will have those which will require approval or decisions. And here, in my view, you have to see these on the impact that particular approval or decision has. Higher the impact, and impact, when I say, it could be financial, it could be reputational, it could be operational. I mean, so you have to see the impact, and if the higher the impact, in my view, higher should be the order of the agenda item. And along with that, what is the level of understanding that the directors have on this particular agenda item? Now, if it is an agenda item they have regularly done in the past, I'm not saying that this should be, but relatively, let's say a declaration of a dividend. Now, this is a very important decision. Whether it's a recommendation or it's an interim dividend approval, the directors, it's an important decision. But the directors are likely to have done this a few times and therefore understand this topic. So relatively, this may not require that much of time as compared to something which they have not handled earlier. And then you have information which is there, matters for information or record. Now, these could be, again, routine or non-routine. Let's say that at one extreme, you have like things like confirmation of the minutes, which we all know is like not something that you will spend too much time on. But if it is a non-routine item, then you need to see what is the time it requires. It is a noting, obviously, at a lesser level than probably the earlier topic, but can go down. So this makes very important because the placement becomes very important, because those requiring discussion, those requiring the inputs from the board, higher they are placed, in my view, are better, because that gives them the requisite focus. And should you by chance run out of time, it is less challenge to postpone or adjourn items which are of a routine nature. Then the next opportunity of communication, I would say, is minutes. And here, I think one of the things which I found very helpful is to, along with the agenda, you also circulate the draft resolutions for those. So you send out draft minutes really, but they only have the resolutions, because obviously the minutes can get completed only after the discussion, what was discussed, that's all. And obviously, if there is any change in the resolution, especially for many of the topics, if the resolution is there, reading that itself, the directors can figure out as to whether they're comfortable with it or not, and how the decision is captured, what are the elements of that discussion. So for key items, I would strongly recommend that draft resolution is circulated with the agenda. Obviously, it is additional work in the beginning itself, because with the agenda, you have the agenda itself, but then you have to also make the draft resolutions. But it really, in my view, helps in the high quality communication and high quality pre-read, as I said. And when we come to the minutes, yes, more time is provided. While more time is provided, my strong suggestion that the draft minutes are circulated within a week, so that it is fresh in the mind of the directors. So when they are reading it, they know exactly what was discussed, and they can respond better. Secondly, minutes is not about capturing every line of the presentation made, every item, every point discussed. It's about putting them in a way which is, again, I go back to my earlier thing where I said, don't make it exhaustive. So even minutes capture the key elements and the decision and the basis for that decision. And every I dotting the I and T is not necessary. It makes the minutes then so long, and no one actually then again it's about the communication. You'll most likely get a within 5 minutes okay from the director that it's okay, because no one has the patience to read 40 pages of the minutes. Now we can say it is that duty, that is another way to see, but looking at it from communication perspective, if you want to leverage that as a communication, sharp minutes get you better responses. We can go to the next slide, please. Continuing with this, I think this is another, I think most of the companies have already done this, using a board management software for communication with directors. This really provides a huge, I would say, leap in terms of the quality of communication with the directors, because of not only the fact that it literally reaches them the moment you upload, it is all there with them. It helps them maintain their own records, their whatever, their comments, their inputs. They have reference of the previous meetings, minutes, everything. So basically, it is a win-win situation for the company secretary. It's a much better thing, putting things electronically up there without having to upload document, having to print and then upload. Whereas for the directors, it really improves the quality of information. And this can be used not only for the board committee meetings, you can also use it for other communications that you may have in between the board meetings. Overall, I would say this is something which really helps in leveraging communication. Obviously, for smaller companies, this may not be something which may be viable from a financial point of view. If you don't want to invest, I think the least you do is to try and keep everything electronic form. So that the emails is something that everyone will have. Try to see if you can avoid the paper trail to the extent possible, so that keeps it the communication much easier to access. Because even if you are sending a PDF document or a Word document, you can run basic query features and markings can be done and all that. So it's still helpful to do that if some director is interested in doing that. The whole issue of now meetings, the audio-visual means is obviously a big I would say, positive in terms of the governance. The attendance of directors is much better. It's very good nowadays, because now you can participate, and the convenience also of convening board meetings becomes that much easier, because if they don't have to travel, and if it is, say, just if I'm, say, in Bombay, I have to travel to Delhi, then that means I have to factor in my flight timings, travel time, and all that. If I am able to attend from my station, it's just those hours of the meeting which are there. So it does provide a huge efficiency to the board functioning. But the key element there is the audiovisual system. And in the context of communication, it's very important that these work properly. So I think obviously when I write here, pre-check if it is working properly at both ends. As the company secretary, it's not that you go and sit down there and see whether the video and audio is working, but ensure that the IT team is there. At least you oversee that, look, everything is in order, so that on the day of the meeting, you don't have challenges. Amongst the issues that one could face is that if the director is especially participating from a remote location, the signals, if they are not good, because see, anything like that, then it disturbs the whole meeting. Everyone, coming in, coming out, and then wait, and then we have to wait for to reconnect. And also the stability of the connection, if checked out in advance, really helps. Wherever possible, try to do this, so that especially when it's remote, let's say if the director is participating from their regular place, it's their office or their company, wherever, then you don't have an issue. But if it's a remote location, they're traveling somewhere and they're participating, it's better to check it out in advance. uh, and what is very important is that, especially the whoever are the presenters, they should be fully trained in operating the system. Typically, like even today, like Surbi just put up the slide without an issue. I mean, it has to happen fast. I mean, like, this is very basic, I'm saying. But let's say if you want to play a video, no, mostly there will be a comment, "Oh, I'm not hearing the audio," or I can't see this or that. So it's important that whoever is operating the system understands and is an expert in that, and always have the IT people on standby outside the meeting, during the meeting, so that to address any issue. As I said, while it's a very powerful tool, any breakage in connection or audio video not being clear is waste on the time of that meeting. And so that you have to try and see how you avoid or minimize. So this is that. And this topic I was thinking whether to put or not, but I think it's a pain point for everyone. Is there a need for a protocol on use of mobiles during the meeting? Obviously, you will have to see, is there a tendency of people using their mobiles during meeting, check out messages, blah, send message, blah. If it is there, in talking to the chairman, because is there a sort of need for a protocol? Then, in such situations, even otherwise, I would say, if you have long meetings, it's always better to provide a break of 5 minutes after, I don't know, 2 hours or whatever, which is for a rest break, for any communications, urgent communications you may need to do. So giving that flexibility, it's not that you have to sit for 5 hours or 4 hours or whatever without using your mobile, but you give them, then it's a part of the protocol that, look, we are going to take a break. If I know as a director that after 2 hours there will be a break where I can do this, it does help. So with that, I move from board committee meetings to basically communications that may happen in between meetings, two meetings. This would typically be for any key developments or updates that you may want to give the directors. I think we have spoken enough about the high quality pre-read. I think very important that a similar approach is followed for this, that whatever you send, it's a high quality pre-read, following these sort of guidelines or the points that I raised earlier. And also see if the issue is such that it calls for an interaction. If there is a need, you can call for a virtual interaction. I have not written a physical interaction because in today's age and date, that's not something which is preferred either. But okay, unless the agenda item is such or the development is such that you need to meet physically, which would be rare and few, you could also see whether virtual interaction, because obviously that's a much stronger format of communication where the directors are able to express their view or to clarify their doubts that may be there. So depending on the development or the topic, you can decide whether to have a virtual interaction. We can go to the next one, please. Then there are certain areas where it's important that you get the information to the directors before it becomes public. And the worst is that you don't want the director calling you, "Hey, I saw this flash on the stock exchange, or I'm reading this in the press. Where is it coming from? So anything of that nature, please do keep the directors also informed. Uh, Prior, literally simultaneously, depending on whatever the agenda item I mean, the type of information you have to decide. And this would be especially if there is any price sensitive disclosures that you are making. If it is not to the knowledge of the directors, please also keep them in the loop fully. We were talking about the importance of transparency. I think this sort of thing is towards building that, and collaboration and transparency. Any material occurrence that you are required to report, that is also the directors are kept in the loop. The rumor verification, which is also there, that also the directors are kept in the loop. The basic thing I would say, I'm not listed everything out, but work on the principle that try and avoid surprises for the directors. There should be no surprise, element of surprise, and that they are learning something from some other source which is there. Even it may be a sort of thing that may not be material per se, but if it is something which can cause that doubt, you can try and address it with prior information or information to the directors. The other way to leverage communication is what are the occasions where you can interact with the independent directors outside the meetings. Try to see if there are occasions. I think executive sessions on the relevant topics with the relevant directors are always helpful. It could include, I would say, that before the meeting itself, you have a separate session, let's say, with the audit chair on any important things that are happening in the accounting policy change, or if there are anything material, or the nomination and remuneration chair, or things like that. It could include that also, or any thing happening. Let's say that what is let's say if you are hit by the tariff, what is the action you are taking? It could be an executive session for the directors who may be interested in that. So, but this is an opportunity to again interact with the independent director outside the meeting. And I dealt with in the context of the succession plan. But see if you can provide exposure to levels below the senior management to the board. This could be through presentations, or, as I said, any other meeting formats that are there, a lunch, whatever. What it does, and I have seen that practically, it provides a lot of confidence to the independent directors on the quality of successors, on the quality of people you have in the company. How do they make, oh, this is a great company with great people? When they interact with the youngsters, I mean, it's not only about the people below the senior management. It could be even your young talent. It could be all the women talent you have, diversity we talk about. What is the quality we have? It provides a lot of confidence to the directors on the culture of the organization, on the caliber of the organization. And this is something, again, the auditor's part, I think this is something most of you would be doing, is that probably either half yearly, quarterly, annually, have that occasion where the audit committee or the board, whatever, can have a private session with the auditors. It could be the statutory auditors, it could be the secretarial auditors, any other expert whom you think it would be important for them to feel that much more confident. We can go to the next one, please. Then I would say this again is a very key aspect, the internal stakeholder communication, that is with people within the company. I think this is something you can all look at, whether it makes sense to have a protocol for communication with the directors, and what are the elements that protocol can have. And this is something which should be accessible to all the relevant stakeholders. Like, what are the matters that need to go to the board or committees? So it should not be a case that your colleague from some other department says, I didn't know that this matter had to go to the board. So if you have a protocol which says, look, these sort of matters need to go to the board or committee, and that could also include, we spoke about the pre-read materials. What is the format this has to be made? What is the way that you suggest that that the protocol can capture how the presentations to the board should be made? When making presentations at the meeting, how do you make those presentations? As I said, leave time for question and answers. What is the, like, how do you articulate yourself? And that is something which you have to formulate in a way based on the composition of your board, because it helps the presenter. Hey, look, in this sort of things, there is expertise in the board, so I should be prepared for this. So I mean, when that means, so that profile becomes important. You can't go in that granular, but that's a sort of direction you could look at. And if there is, if there are any actions that you need to take from any previous board meeting or committee meeting, how to deal with it, and the report, providing a report to the company secretary. And as I said, this protocol obviously needs to be updated and refreshed periodically for change in any of the above, which I've said, that, like, whether it's a new matter that needs to go board or does not need to go board, or some other clarification which has come, which changes it. So it has to be a dynamic protocol. And actively seek agenda items from your stakeholders before meeting. Don't just leave it. Otherwise, you will have situation where at the last minute, someone will say, hey, I forgot to send this. And then you have to try and put that under, I mean, if it is just before the meeting, at least you can do it with the consent of the chair. Otherwise, it becomes a challenge. I mean, and to run a circular resolution for that, if it is something that can be done, it's not something that necessarily looks good as regards the communication between the internal stakeholders. And have a mechanism for follow-up actions, which I dealt with from the protocol perspective, but you also need to have a follow-up action from board committee meetings, some mechanism. And it is very good to have networking with the internal stakeholders. Don't limit your interactions to just board meetings and committee meetings. As company secretaries, you do much more role than just the board and committee. And this is important that other stakeholders understand. So have networking, have meeting on issues outside the board, committee. And this will also help you, especially on the advocacy, which I spoke earlier. If you can go to the next slide, please. Should be next slide. Thank you. And I said I had only one legal provision I was quoting, and this is the one. And this is the caution I have to definitely highlight. Avoid an information overload. While we speak communication, what you have to be careful is over communication. And there are again two perspectives to it. One is the legal perspective, another is the efficiency perspective. If I look at the legal perspective, that you should, when we look at section 149(12), which provides the independent directors and not NEDs who are not promoters or KMP, they are given a certain level of protection. Now, don't take such matters and burden them with what they do not need to deal with. So this is something you should always be conscious to see, that not that you push everything to the board or to the committees unless it is required or it is important. If it's an important topic, clearly, but this is a good benchmark to apply, that whether it is something that they need to, are they responsible to have a look, or is there an oversight responsibility? You need to take a call, but very important that everything you benchmark against this. This is applicable right across, everything, whether it is the agenda, whether it is the minutes, it's the discussion. You'll have to be very conscious of this. The other is the efficiency aspect. I mean, obviously, if we have too much of information, your essential issues, key matters may not get the attention they deserve. Something could be missed. A suboptimal decision could be made, or a decision made without knowing fully the details of what is being done. So this is something that is a guardrail you need to have, of not overloading the system with information. And this is the last one I have, which is building trust. All this is very important. If done well, it will build the trust with the directors in terms of the quality of communication. And that can lead to a positive and productive relationship where the trust element is there, but trust once gained, you have to maintain it all along. It's not enough that you just do it for once and then it's not a one-time exercise. So it's a continuous journey, but I can tell you it's a huge benefit in terms of the communication and the board effectiveness if you have that trust element, because on you a lot of things can get done, but obviously it is up to you to ensure that the directors have had all the requisite communication or information that is required. Next one, please. And I mean, I just try to summarize what we have tried to share with you today. That there is no doubt that effective communication can contribute to effective board management. I have consciously used the word can, because other than communication, there are many other elements which are also relevant in the context of effective board management. Just at an extreme, if your entire board does not have, let's say, the requisite skill matrix or the requisite level of independent thinking, communication itself is not going to make any difference. So it's only one of the levers that is there, but it can definitely. And what I said, what I've shared with you today is based on my experience, but the communication model that each of you will follow has to be based on your organization culture and needs. Every organization has its own needs, its culture. So it's very important that the communication model that is adopted takes into account that. And it's not that that communication model is going to be consistent. It's a changing. It will evolve over time with change of organization needs or the culture, the change of people. These things evolve. So this is something which you have to brace for. And in all this, yes, it's very important you play your part as the company secretary to leverage communication for effective board management, and try to make the best out of it. Depending on whatever situation you have, you play your part to leverage this, because it's something which will contribute to effective board management. I think we can go to the next, and I close with that. And we are now open for your questions and comments.
Thank you so much, sir, for this detailed presentations and sharing your practical experiences and insight on each and every aspect related to the board management and the communication. And our members have also placed some good questions before you. So I am going to ask the questions one by one. So can we start, sir?
Please.
So, our first question is, in a family controlled, unlisted public limited company, promoter dictates and there are no corporate governance norms, how a company secretary can protect him or herself in such situation?
Uh, it's first of all, I'll acknowledge it's not an easy task. But of if you see my literally the third slide, I spoke about advocacy. Yes, you have to use all your persuasive skills to get them to appreciate that this is the right way and the benefit of doing that. And I mean, that's the only way. Otherwise, uh, I mean, if you are just leaving it to the situation, you cannot hope to be protected, because your role you have to do, and to discharge your role, the only lever that is available to you, because they are your promoters, you cannot go against them, but does not stop you from advocacy. So that those skills are something which you need to hone, and how to present it. What is it works with the promoters? You know, like even in the promoter families, there would be people who may be more receptive. There will be people who will be less receptive. So you have to do all that and try and get your perspective, your messages, your job across to them. So that that's the only way I see.
So second question we have is, in some family run business company which is closely held private company, the directors used to communicate to professional employees indirectly through some close confident less educated means, uh, how to handle these things being the company secretary in that organization?
Uh, this is a see the only way I can only hope that you have to hope that you get an opportunity to show your caliber, and the opportunity could come in two ways. One could be in a positive way, that something is stuck and you are able to show how you can contribute as a professional. The second, and I don't wish it, is that there is a non-compliance or there is a problem, and then you can show, you can say, see what is the this thing on the other side. So either way, I think the key is that you need to find yourself an opportunity to showcase how you can contribute. A, B, however challenging it may be. I also spoke about networking with the internal stakeholders. You should also start directly networking with such people with whom the promoter see. Our effort is what? At the end of the day, we have to get along with our job and our responsibility. And this what I am saying, second part, I mean, it's not an eternal thing, because once you are able to gain the trust of the promoter, then you can scale down these things. But till you do that, in my view, you'll have to a see what are the opportunities where you can show your caliber, and second, also network with the people with whom the communication takes place.
Sir, another question we have is, how to manage a situation where an independent director has suppressed an information that would prove a conflict? Would he be ineligible to continue?
Uh, okay, I am I'm giving the legal part. You all know, like obviously, if it's not disclosed, whatever this thing they will follow. But the larger part is first, according to me, this has to go to the board with the details, with your opinion as the company secretary. What is the course of action? Does this entail disqualification? Does this, I mean, what is the nature of, because see, you can't have one size fits all. What is the quantum? What is the impact? Is it of such a nature that it prejudices the position of the company very badly? The impact you have to see. You could also, at times, what happens is that these are sensitive issues. So you could also, in such a case, go for an external opinion of someone that the company respects, the directors respect, so that uh, you are just saying, look, I have also consulted. This is the suggestion I'm getting, and then leave it to the board to take a decision, other directors to take a decision on how to proceed. So your role would be in that. Again, I'm going back to my earlier one. I put opinion. So your role is more getting the opinion and information, because it's very important at the background. So you have to, the challenge you could have in these sort of cases is working around with information which may not be sufficient. And so therefore, if that is the case, you should also then go to the board and say, look, this is the information I have, and then take their guidance on. I mean, you may have your thoughts on how to get more information, but proceed after you get that sort of direction on how to proceed.
How a company secretary can handle internal conflicts and ego issues that may rise between the directors and ensuring good relationships amongst the board of directors.
See, this will depend a lot on the relationship of the company secretary with those directors. See, and normally, if you are knowing a particular director for 4 years, 5 years, or 3 years, whatever, it's maybe possible you would have that relationship. In which case, you could talk to them separately, but not before keeping the chairperson in confidence. So it's very important, because you're talking about the board, and you should not do anything which is not to the knowledge of the chairperson. And in some cases, if you actually are reporting to the managing director or CEO or whoever, that person also, because it shouldn't be seen as you doing something without, and as I said, avoid surprises. Don't do that. And obviously, if you think you're not in a position to address that conflict, escalate it to the chairperson, that this is the issue, and whatever support you can provide, or if the chairperson says, why don't you do it, or you could offer, if you feel you are in a position to deal with it, that the chairperson, give me an opportunity, let me talk to the two of them, I'll try and see. If it doesn't, then I will come back to you. So depending on the situation, you proceed further. So yes, there is a possibility you can play a role, but subject to, as I said, it being with the understanding of the chairperson or the CEO, whoever you report to.
How should a CS advise the board on handling sensitive communications such as whistleblower cases, insider trading concerns, or material disclosures?
See, I think all these, there are two parts to it. One, factual elements, which I think can always be communicated, because it's important to know the factual elements. But I would not communicate directly my opinion on it, or let's say, or whether this amounts to, I mean, some key elements I will avoid in that, which could give that. But having said that, it is depending on the intensity. You have to, I mean, the way I understand your question, it's that the mode of communication is what you're asking. So it could be either if it's very, 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 very sensitive and confidential, I would call request for an impromptu sort of virtual call because such a thing will be with the knowledge of the chairperson. It's not going to be something that you alone, so that it is discussed before something is put down in writing. And if it is something which is what you call regular or manageable, let's say that you have the unaudited results or the audited results, then we have our policies. I'm sure you'll have your policy, when you'll make it available. And the directors are also under bound by secrecy, by the code of conduct and by the regulations, that they have to maintain security of this. So depending on the information, but either, as I said, it could be a virtual call for certain sort of things which may come without notice, or you could also send it over email.
Sir, what are the most common communication failures at the board level?
See, the most, I would say that not understanding a topic fully, because of the what do you call nature of the subject. Second, sometimes the ego of directors comes into play, that I am very knowledgeable in this particular area, and then it goes sidetracks, because you have to respect the board member for that. And that's the time when you really have to keep looking at the chairman, help me out, bail me out. That is there. And other than that, I think the overall thing that now I think the situation is really improving, but even on their disclosures, communications, you have to follow up many times. At times, because with due respect, some of the directors, this will be handled by their secretaries, who may not know. You may get disclosures that are not proper or fully done. So, if I may say, probably this could be the top three I have come across.
Sir, how do you manage cultural differences wherein the board is consisting with Indian and foreign directors?
Very, very interesting question. I think the one has to it is very important that you have an understanding of the director. Even within India, depending on the type of director, each one has a different approach, and even in terms of culture also. So, but if you talk a foreign and an Indian director, the main difference could be because of their environment and their understanding of it, which I think, therefore, when you are explaining a subject or this thing context, it's very important to give the local environment also, which you may not need to do for a Indian director who would know it. So I think the local context vis-a-vis, giving them a local context. Secondly, you see that normally, and I am talking about because you see, you could have different jurisdictions. My dealings have been more with European sort of thing. They prefer short things. They are not too legalistic in their approach. So it is better that you get down directly to the matter, instead of the periphery. Avoid the periphery and go for the detail. So you have to balance, whereas the local directors may prefer some detail because we may want to have a little bit understanding. So you have to strike a balance that it meets this requirement, but it is not too much in detail, that both ends are happy with what you're doing.
Sir, as a CS, we often interact with the board members who are senior in both age and experience. What are the most effective strategy to communicate or present view in a way that it respectfully convince them, especially when suggesting a new approach or compliance requirement?
I go back to your advocacy cap, and there are in addition to advocacy, the strength of your advocacy also comes with how you show your caliber and what you bring to the organization. And so therefore, when you are, say, talking about a new legal requirement, just don't present it as a new legal requirement. You should see the evolution of that. Is there a business basis? Let's say a new requirement has come, and there were certain irregularities or failures or things that took place. You could give the history why this requirement has come. Second, it is always good to also see, talk to your peers, your fellow company secretaries, what they are doing. So, if you tell them, look, this is a new requirement, this is how I suggest. By the way, I have also spoken to XYZ, they are approaching it this way. So, it will show that it is not that you are dreaming of a compliance or you're over compliant, because this could be a thing that this company secretary is giving everything, and making us do things which we don't know whether we need to do. He's over compliant. So this will give them that comfort, and secondly also that, look, you have done your homework. It's not that you have just brought something. You know why it has come. You have seen how the others are handling. So, and even in this, in your board, again, you will have directors who appreciate this. You should try to subtly take their support while communicating these sort of issues, so that also adds to the board communication.
So, sir, thank you for answering all the questions with so much of patience. And now I would like to place a formal vote of thanks to you on the behalf of ICSI and the members who have joined this webinar. Thank you so much, sir, for taking your time in this busy schedule for the members of the ICSI and deliberate on this specific topic, which is of interest and as well as importance to the company secretaries. The way you have deliberated with the PPT and the answers, I think it must have shown the path to the new company secretaries as well as the old company secretaries to communicate with the board more effectively and manage the issues with more dignity and integrity. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.